So I just showed you all how to plug this into your calculator. What we want to do now is to take these points and plot them on a graph. I'm sorry. X and Y. And I'm going to have more below the x-axis, so I'm going to make my x-axis and y-axis. I'm going to go 1 and 2. 1, 2, 0, negative 1, negative 2. And I have to go down to negative 8, so I'm going to count by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8, but they're negative. Negative 8, negative 6, negative 4, negative 2. That way I can plot my points, and hopefully after you do negative 2, negative 8, negative 1, negative 2, 0, 0, 1, negative 2, and 2, negative 8, you get something that is U-shaped. Something that looks like a negative quadratic. This is how we can graph any trig function. Not trig function, I'm sorry. Thinking of my other class. This is how we can graph any non-linear function. Okay? On today's work, on what you have to do today, you will actually do a cubic graph when you've never done that before. But this is how you would do it. Okay, the next one we're going to do is for linear graphs. For linear functions. The method we're going to use is something called slope-intercept form. It's an easy form. Y equals mx plus b. You've done it before. You've seen it. Each letter represents something as a part of your graph. The M stands for your slope. It's your rise over run. It's your change of your graph. The B is where it begins. It's the y-intercept. It's where x is equal to 0. If we know these two parts of an equation, we can graph any linear equation. For example, y equals, I'm going to put negative 1/4. Negative 1/4. Negative, I know that's hard, but that's a negative. Negative 1/4 x plus 2. And I'm going to put a little graph paper right here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 x. 1, 2, 3, 4 y. Now I'm hoping you know which one the B is. What number is B? Say it out loud if you know. 2. Good. So that is where it begins. That's the y-intercept. That's where it crosses the y-axis. Which way do I go? Do I go to the right 2 or up 2? And then I put my first point. So the first step is I need to plot B on the y-axis. Plot B on the y-axis. I just did that. That's what this is. Then step 2, from B, use the slope for the rise over run to find a second point. From B, use the slope for the rise over the run to find a second point. From B, I use the slope for the rise over the run. This rise over run is negative. It has a negative 1 over 4. Whenever you have a negative in front of your slope, I want you just to think of that negative as only belonging to the top. I want you to think of that negative as only belonging to the top, because then your rise is not a positive one. Your rise is now what? Going down. Negative 1. Down 1, and then over 4. This 4 is positive. Down 1 to the right 4. Which creates a negative graph that goes downward from left to right. Down 1 over 4. Does that make sense to you? Okay. What would happen if my slope, let's do the same one except y equals 3. 3x plus 2. I'm going to do the same one, same graph paper. Another example. Y equals 3x plus 2. My first point, this time I have a different color. I have red, so I'm going to use red this time. My first point is which point? I'm putting it in red. You can barely see that. And what's the rise over the run? What do I rise?
3 over
1, 2, 3. If you forget, this is 3 over divided by an invisible. I do not have red. Look at that. It's not working. I used so much red ink on my last test, I ran out. Over 1. I'll use blue. Rise of 3. 1, 2, 3. Over 1. It has to be over 1 for you to have that particular graph.